Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of CBSE Class 12 NCERT Chapter 9 Financial Management. In this video, we will be understanding capital structure, fixed capital and working capital from an organization's point of view. Capital structure is nothing but an optimum mix between the owners and the borrowed funds. Now for that you need to understand what are owners' funds and what are borrowed funds. Owners' funds include equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus and retained earnings. So basically, they are the funds contributed by those who have control over the decision making of an organization. And borrowed funds, as the name suggests, include loans, debentures, public deposits, etc. from banks, financial institutions, debenture holders and public, where these funds have been borrowed from an outside source. Capital structure can be calculated as the debt-equity ratio with the formula debt upon equity, or as the proportion of debt out of the total capital, wherein the formula is debt upon debt plus equity. To understand why we require an optimum mix between the owner's funds and the borrowed funds, or in the form of debt and equity, we need to get a little insight as to what is financial leverage and trading on equity. Now, financial leverage refers to the proportion of debt in the total capital of the company. Of course, basically why, but there is always this question that might come in the minds of the management as to why should we borrow funds if we are able to raise that kind of amount through equity. When the owners can come together and raise amount, why should we include any kind of debt component? Because debt component has to be repaid. But then there is a concept of trading on equity, which is the practice of raising the proportion of debt in the overall capital structure such that there will be an increase in the earnings per share, and that is what we are going to study in the upcoming slides. Let us now try to understand how financial leverage will benefit the firm through the EBIT EPS analysis, where EBIT refers to earnings before interest and tax and EPS refers to the earnings per share. Let us suppose there are two companies, A and B, and both have a requirement of 10 lakh rupees as their capital. Company A raises this 10 lakhs through equity share capital, wherein the shares have a face value as rupees 10. Whereas company B raises only 4 lakhs through equity share capital and 6 lakhs through debt finance, that is at 10% debenture. Now let us presume that the EBIT in both the cases, that is the earnings before interest and tax, was 2 lakhs for both company A and B. Now let us look at the EPS, or let us calculate the EPS, that is the earnings per share. Now if you look at company A, of course, there is no interest component because there was no debt component, so there is no interest that needs to be paid. So the EBT, that is earnings before tax, is 2 lakhs. Then if we presume that the tax is deductible at the rate of 30%, it will come to 60,000, and the earnings after tax can be calculated as 1,40,000. Now, to raise equity share capital of 10 lakhs, where the face value per equity share is rupees 10, that means the number of equity shares is 1 lakh. Now if we calculate the EPS, that is the earnings after tax divided by the number of equity shares, you can see the result as 1.4. Now look at company B, where again we are presuming that EBIT was 2 lakhs. There was an interest component because it was at the rate of 10% of debenture, if you remember. That means the EBT was 1,40,000. And calculating the same tax at the rate of 30%, it would come to 42,000, giving an EAT, that is the earnings after tax, of 98,000. Now, since only 4 lakh of equity share capital was raised with a face value per equity share of rupees 10, that means the number of equity shares is only 40,000, which gives the earnings per share of 2.45. So if you can carefully understand this particular EBIT EPS analysis, you will see that what is basically happening is whatever is remaining, that is the earnings after tax, is being divided into a more concentrated group of shareholders such that the earnings per share amongst these shareholders will increase. Of course, a lot of ideal situation was assumed while calculating the EBIT EPS analysis, but even otherwise, there are many factors which affect the choice of capital structure. Cash flow position of an organization is very important, wherein the normal business operations have to be taken into consideration, the investment in fixed assets have to be properly calculated, as well as whatever are the debt service commitments, they also need to be properly calculated and analyzed. Interest coverage ratio is nothing but the number of times earnings before interest and tax of a company covers the interest obligation, which basically means that how well prepared through the EBIT analysis, how well prepared a particular firm is with respect to the repayment of the interest, because interest as such is an obligatory payment for any business organization. This particular ICR will not be relevant when the EBIT is high but the cash balance is less. So obviously, with respect to the cash balance, the interest coverage ratio has also to be considered. Debt service coverage ratio means that the ability of a firm to meet the cash commitments. That means that should there be a debt component wherein an obligatory payment has to be made, if suppose the DSCR is high, it means that we have enough cash in the firm such that these obligatory payments can be taken care of. So that means the debt financing could be considered. If ROI, that is the return on investment, is high, then the company can use trading on equity to increase the EPS. Like what we just saw before in the EBIT EPS analysis, you bring in a debt component so that the earnings per share will increase, and obviously even the shareholders will be happy. Cost of debt is another factor. Suppose the cost of bringing in borrowed funds in an organization is less, then why not? Why not increase that component and bring in more debt in the organization? Higher tax rate makes debt relatively cheaper. This is because the interest or the obligatory payment towards debt is done before the tax is levied in the business firm. The next factor is control, which means that more equity will mean more shareholders, which means a more varied dissemination of control with respect to the decision making of the firm. Another important factor which affects the choice of capital structure are the regulatory framework which exists with respect to the business organization, and if these norms are can be met with ease, then it will somewhere influence the choice of source of finance, whether it should be debt or equity. The stock market conditions, where if the bullish market exists, then equity shares should be easily sold. That means bullish basically means when the share value is going up, and if it is bearish, it is better to opt for debt. The capital structure of other companies sometimes also help to understand the capital structure of the business organization with respect to the industrial norms that exist in a particular country. Also, if there is a lot of risk that is involved with respect to the business operations, then it is better to go less towards debt and higher towards equity, because debt, if the risk is high, that means the repayment should not be, or the obligatory payment should not get affected. The next important factor is the cost of equity. Now, suppose in a business organization, the debt component keeps on increasing. That means somewhere the equity shareholders, those who are existing equity shareholders, their risk or their financial risk is also going high. Now, if the risk is high, then automatically these shareholders will expect a better return with respect to because of the risk return ratio that is being calculated. So beyond a point, if the debt component keeps on increasing, then the share price may decrease even though the earning per share might be more, because of what the mindset of the equity shareholders, wherein they feel that okay fine, if you are risking, then why not get a better return on that. Flotation costs also affect the choice between debt and equity. Now, for public issue of shares or debentures, there is higher expenditure as compared to getting a loan from a financial institution. So this also affects the choice between the debt and equity component. Another factor are the risk considerations. Now, for any business firm, there are basically two types of risk. One is the financial risk, which is the inability to meet any kind of fixed financial charges, or like your interest payment, your preference dividend, or the repayment obligations. And of course, there is a business risk, which depends on the operating cost. Now, the higher fixed operating cost means there is higher business risk. Now, this is also another important factor to understand the choice of capital structure, whether we should include debt or equity. If the business risk is low, then the capacity to use debt is higher. That means there is somewhere the risk is less, so somewhere the obligatory payment that has to be made through debt financing can be handled by the firm. And of course, to be able to be flexible in nature, any business firm must maintain some borrowing power, somewhere wherein, to have that kind of flexibility, it should be able to sustain itself in the market where there are people who are willing to give them funds, or they are having the capacity to borrow funds. We will now be studying the fixed and working capital. Fixed capital is to invest in fixed assets, which include plant and machinery, furniture and fixture, land and building vehicles, etc., which have got some kind of usage beyond 1 year or beyond the financial year of an organization. Now, the investment made in these fixed assets are irrevocable unless and until there is a huge loss which is being borne by the organization. Then there are current assets, or the investment in such current assets which can be converted into cash or cash equivalents within 1 year, which primarily include inventories, debtors, bills, receivables, etc. A key decision area of a firm is in the form of the management of fixed capital. Fixed capital, also known as the capital budgeting decisions, which affect the growth, profitability, and the risk of business in the long run. Ideally, the fixed assets should be financed through long-term sources of capital. They could be in the form of equity, preference shares, debentures, long-term loans, and retained earnings. Because again, like I said, capital budgeting decisions are those decisions which affect more than one financial year of an organization. Now, any investment that is done in the fixed assets, it is not just merely purchasing these fixed assets or what we call as acquisition, but also the firm has to keep in mind the expansion, modernization, and their replacement. Now, for example, if we talk about plant and machinery, it has to also consider whether the machinery is becoming obsolete, or latest technology is being developed, or the rate at which the depreciation is happening. All these things also have to be kept in mind while making capital budgeting decisions. And another major expenditure as far as capital budgeting is concerned lies in the areas of advertising and R&D, because if we see, both research and development as well as advertising are those components of a business organization which actually affect the long-term existence of a business firm. It is very important to carefully analyze the capital budgeting decisions or the management of fixed assets, and the importance lies in the form of long-term growth effects, because any kind of fund that is invested in the long-term assets, the firm also needs to keep in mind that the return should be yielded in the future time period also. Also, when the investment is happening in fixed assets, it means large amount of funds are involved. That means the capital funds are being blocked for a longer period of term. So therefore, a careful analysis has to be done for these projects or all those areas or all these fixed assets where investments are being made or the funds are being used. There is also risk involved because fixed capital affects the returns of the firm as a whole in the long term. So basically, it gives an insight as to what is going to be the position of the business organization beyond the financial year. That is why somewhere it contributes to the overall business risk that a firm is facing. And of course, any kind of capital budgeting decisions that happen or the investment that is happening in fixed assets are irreversible in nature, and if they are reversed within the short period of time, even before they have been properly utilized or the return has been taken care of, then the firm may incur heavy loss. Let us now look at the various factors which affect the requirement of fixed capital. Now, in the nature of business is of manufacturing type, then it would require more investment in fixed assets as compared to that of a trading concern. If the scale of operations is high, that means that there would be a bigger plant, more space would be required. That means there would be higher investment in fixed assets. Choice of technique also has to be carefully analyzed. If the firm is following a capital intensive technique, then there will be higher investment in the plant and machinery, which will require more funds in the fixed capital. At the same time, if the firm is following labor intensive techniques, then there will be lesser investment in the fixed assets, which will make the fixed capital requirement low. Another important point is how fast there is technological upgradation with respect to the plant and machinery or any kind of fixed assets. If the assets become obsolete, then the replacement rate has to become higher, or that means the rate at which they have to be replaced becomes more, which will again make the requirement of fixed capital high because there will be higher investment in the fixed assets. If the firm has got higher growth prospects, that means there will be higher investment in fixed assets, which will make the requirement for fixed capital more. Also, if the firm wants to diversify its operations, then it may also lead to increase in the fixed capital requirements because there might be a need to purchase more fixed assets. Then there are financing alternatives. Whether a firm needs to purchase or it can borrow or it can lease. Now this also affects the overall fixed capital requirements of a business organization. If the firm is following some kind of collaboration with any other firm or any other business organization, then that also reduces the level of investment in fixed assets. Working capital is nothing but the capital required to ensure smooth operations in any business organization. It is calculated by removing current liabilities from the current assets. The current assets are all those assets of a business organization which can be converted into cash or cash equivalents within 1 year. And the current liabilities are the payment obligations which are due within 1 year. Let us now quickly study those factors which affect the working capital requirement of a business organization. The nature of business. In any trading organization, there is no processing of raw materials, which means this lesser working capital requirement. But if it is a manufacturing business, then there would be raw materials which need to be converted into finished goods. So obviously there will be more working capital requirement. The scale of operations, if it is high, then the quantum or the amount of inventory, the debtors and all these factors are also high, which will lead to higher working capital requirement. The business cycle also affects the working capital requirement, wherein during the boom season, where the sales and the production is high, then the working capital requirement also becomes high. Also at the same time, there are seasonal factors, wherein the peak season is there, which means that there is higher level of activity or higher level of operations within an organization, which will further make the working capital requirement more. The time span between the inflow of raw materials into a business organization and its conversion into finished goods for further sale is known as the production cycle. Now, if this cycle it's long, that means there is more time taken for these raw materials to be processed into finished goods, then the working capital requirement also becomes high, because of the simple reason that more amount of funds are required by the business organization to sustain itself throughout this production cycle. Sometimes the firm also follows a liberal credit policy, wherein they give credit to the customers. Now, of course, this provision that they make depends on the competition as well as how creditworthy the clients are. But either ways, whenever a firm is following a liberal credit policy, it means the debtors are high, which again makes the working capital requirement high. Also, the credit availed by a business firm will somewhere impact the working capital requirement. If suppose the purchases made by an organization is on credit basis, then the requirement for working capital is less. Operating efficiency further affects the working capital requirement of a business organization, and let us see how. If suppose the management is efficient in utilizing its raw materials, which will again be reflected in higher inventory turnover, which again will mean that lesser working capital is required. At the same time, suppose whatever is blocked in terms of receivables or the debtor turnover ratio is better, which will again affect the working capital requirement. That means if the debtors are all paying on time and there is no blocked money for the business organization, the working capital requirement will be less because there is smooth flow of money or the funds. Then better sales efforts will mean that there is reduced average time of finished goods inventory. That means the goods which are being processed, like the raw materials being converted into the final goods, and these final goods are further sent for sales. If this kind of effort is better in an organization, that means quick sales are happening, so obviously the inventory or the requirement to store the finished goods will be less. This will further reduce the working capital requirement. Availability of raw material also affects the working capital requirement, and let us see how. Suppose the raw materials are readily available, that means a firm would want to have higher stock levels, which will again lead to higher working capital requirement. Then there is something known as the lead time. That means the time taken between the placement of order and the receipt of materials. If suppose a firm is ordering certain raw materials, in the time taken, obviously within immediately it cannot happen. So first they have to place the order and then they will receive the raw materials. Now this is known as the lead time. Now if the lead time is high, then higher quantity of the raw materials would be stored, because obviously the firm will not keep on ordering. They would make sure that they order and they get enough buffer to be stored. This will further affect the working capital requirement, which will become high. Higher growth prospects means higher production and sales targets, which will lead to higher working capital requirement. Then there is a level of competition. Now, if the competition is high in the market, then the firm has got two options. Either it can have higher stock of finished goods so that these goods are readily available, or it can have liberal credit terms. Now, in either of the cases, the working capital requirement will become high. Then there is this eternal phenomenon of inflation which exists in the market. Now, in order to maintain constant volume and production and sales, any business firm has to ensure that irrespective of the rising prices, it has to keep that volume. Which means that if suppose a firm feels that it requires 100 units of raw material at any given point of time, then irrespective of whether the expenses are going high or the prices are going high, the firm has to ensure that these 100 units are always readily available. So this again may lead to an increase in the working capital requirement of the business organization. Now overall, we have seen that whether it is capital budgeting or working capital requirement, whether the source of funds is through debt or equity, financial management, however, is an integral part of any business organization. Thank you.